The massive crystalline spires of the Galactic Academy of Sciences pierced the purple sky of Centauri Prime, their surfaces gleaming under the light of 3 moons. Inside the grand arrival hall, Hannah Park clutched her single travel bag, trying to keep her breathing steady as dozens of alien eyes studied her every move. Being the first human student at the academy was intimidating enough, but the whispers and clicks of various species discussing her presence made her heart race. She recognized the distinctive blue-feathered form of an avian species hurriedly moving away from her path, while a bubbling mass of water containing a vaguely humanoid shape floated nearby in a containment field. "Specimen Hannah Park," a metallic voice called out. Hannah turned to face a towering silicon-based being, its crystalline body refracting light in rainbow patterns. "I am Administrator Mole. Your presence here is unexpected. Thank you for accepting my application," Hannah said, bowing slightly out of habit. The movement caused several nearby students to flinch. "Yes, well," Mole's crystal fragments shifted uncomfortably. "We were unaware Earth was still inhabited. Most Class 12 Deathworlds don't produce spacefaring species." Hannah bit back a smile. She'd read about this in her briefing materials. Most alien species considered Earth to be too hostile for intelligent life. The fact that humans not only survived but thrived there had caused quite a stir in the galactic community. "Dury will show you to your quarters." Mole gestured to the blue-feathered avian who had been avoiding her earlier. "Dury is one of our top students in xenobiology. Perhaps you can provide some insights into Earth biology." The avian approached cautiously, its head crest rising and falling with nervous energy. "This way, please," Dury chirped, maintaining what Hannah assumed was a safe distance. As they walked through the academy's vast corridors, Hannah noticed the environmental controls shifting around them. Some sections were filled with different atmospheric compositions, others had varying gravity levels, and a few even contained what appeared to be liquid methane for certain species. "Is it true?" Dury finally asked, breaking the tense silence. "About the water falling from your sky." "You mean rain?" "Yes, that's normal on Earth." Dury's feathers puffed out in shock. "And you survived this acid attack." "It's not acid," Hannah explained, trying not to laugh. "It's just water. We need it to live." "Fascinating and terrifying," Dury muttered, making notes on a floating datavat. "And the atmospheric electricity discharges." "Lightning. Yes, we have that too. It's actually quite beautiful from a safe distance." Their conversation was interrupted by a floating sphere of water approaching. Instructor Lem, as indicated by the academic insignia swirling in the water around their form. "Ah, our new Deathworlder student." Lem's voice bubbled through a translator. "I've been reading about Earth. Is it true your species deliberately exposes itself to ultraviolet radiation for entertainment?" "You mean sunbathing?" "Well, yes, but we need some sunlight for vitamin D production," Hannah explained. The horror in Lem's shifting water patterns was almost comical. "And you regularly ingest neurotoxins for pleasure," Lem continued. "Oh, you mean caffeine? It's not really a neurotoxin for us. It just helps us stay alert." The questions continued as they reached Hannah's quarters. The room had been specially modified to Earth standard gravity and atmosphere, with reinforced furniture to handle her dense bone structure, as Dury politely put it. "Your first classes begin tomorrow," Lem informed her. "We've adjusted the curriculum to account for your unique biology. Please try not to alarm the other students with any displays of your species' predatory capabilities." After they left, Hannah sat on her bed, finally allowing herself to relax. The room's window offered a spectacular view of the academy's sprawling campus, with students of countless species going about their daily routines. Some floated, others crawled, and a few moved in ways that defied her understanding of physics. She unpacked her few belongings, including a small potted plant from Earth, a simple succulent that had passed the Academy's strict biosecurity screening. To her, it was a tiny piece of home. To her new classmates, it was probably another example of Earth's terrifying biology, surviving in conditions that would kill most other planets' flora. As night fell and the three moons cast their pale light through her window, Hannah couldn't help but smile. She might be seen as a dangerous creature from a deadly world, but she was also a student, here to learn and share knowledge. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now, she was just grateful for the opportunity to represent humanity among the stars. She checked her schedule one last time before bed. Her first class would be Basic Xenobiology with Instructor Lem. Hannah imagined the shock on their faces when they learned about Earth's food chain, or the fact that humans were persistence hunters. This was going to be an interesting year, teaching her classmates that being from a death world didn't make humans monsters. It just made them wonderfully adaptable. As she drifted off to sleep, the sound of various species moving through the corridors created an alien lullaby. Tomorrow would be her first real day as a student at the most prestigious academy in the galaxy, and she was ready to show everyone that humans were more than just survivors of a deadly world. They were friends waiting to be made, if only given the chance. 2 weeks into the academic term, Hannah stood in the academy's massive gymnasium, surrounded by her alien classmates. The space was divided into various environmental zones to accommodate different species' needs. Today marked the arrival of another human student, Jae-ho Kim, who had just transferred from the Mars colony. The physical education instructor, Tech, moved with fluid grace on webbed feet. Their amphibian features rippled with concern as they consulted a datapad. Today's assessment will test basic physical capabilities. We have adjusted the parameters for our Earthborn students. Hannah caught Jae-ho's eye, and they shared a knowing look. The adjusted parameters were still far below what they considered normal exercise. Around them, their classmates moved with careful precision in the reduced gravity environment most of them preferred. First test, endurance running, Tech announced. Please complete as many circuits as possible at your own pace. Rin, a willowy student from a low-gravity world, raised an appendage. Will the humans be using mobility assistance devices? No need, Jae-ho said with a polite smile. We can manage. The track materialized with environmental barriers separating each lane. Hannah and Jae-ho took their positions, while their classmates watched with a mixture of concern and curiosity. The signal sounded, and they began to run. What followed amazed their audience. While most species considered a few minutes of continuous movement strenuous, the two humans maintained a steady pace lap after lap. Their classmates finished the required circuits and watched in growing astonishment as Hannah and Jae-ho continued running. They show no signs of stopping, Rin whispered to a cluster of students. How are their joints not disintegrating? After 20 minutes, Tech finally called a halt. This is unexpected. They said skin changing colors in what Hannah had learned meant confusion. Your endurance exceeds our testing parameters. That was just a warm-up, Jae-ho commented, barely winded. Several nearby students moved back nervously. The next test involved lifting weights in Earth standard gravity. Hannah approached the equipment while her classmates watched from behind a safety barrier. She easily lifted what the academy considered the maximum safe weight for her size. Impossible, one student clicked. The gravity readings must be wrong. Actually, Hannah explained, this is about what I used to lift at my high school gym. The revelation that human adolescents regularly trained with such weights caused a minor panic. Tech had to spend several minutes explaining that human bone density and muscle structure were adapted to Earth's conditions. Jae-ho demonstrated the next exercise, climbing. While other species used anti-gravity assists or specialized equipment, the two humans scaled the wall using just their hands and feet. The sight of them hanging by their fingers caused several students to emit distress signals. Your species willingly suspends itself above ground level, Rin asked, their voice quivering. Without safety fields. Some humans climb mountains for fun, Jae-ho said. The translator struggled to convey several species' responses to this information. The final test involved reaction time. Here, at least, some other species matched or exceeded human capabilities. Hannah found herself impressed by the lightning-quick movements of her arthropod classmates. As the class ended, Tech pulled both humans aside. "We may need to design a separate physical education program for you both. Your capabilities are concerning to some students." "We don't mean to frighten anyone," Hannah assured them. "This is just normal for us." "That's what concerns them," Tech replied, their webbed hands gesturing expressively. "What you consider normal, most species consider extreme survival conditions." Word of the humans' physical abilities spread quickly through the academy. By dinner time, Hannah and Jiho found themselves at the center of attention in the multi-species cafeteria. Students crowded around, asking questions about Earth's gravity, atmospheric pressure, and the activities humans did for recreation. "Is it true humans continue moving even when damaged?" one student asked. "You mean like exercising with sore muscles?" "Sure," Jiho answered. "It helps with recovery." This led to a lengthy discussion about human healing factors and pain tolerance. Hannah tried to explain the concept of walking off minor injuries, which only increased the other students' fascination and horror. Later that evening, Hannah and Jiho sat in her quarters, laughing about the day's events. "Did you see their faces when we did push-ups?" Jiho asked. "They thought we were trying to damage ourselves." "We should probably warn them before we show them any sports videos from Earth," Hannah replied. "I don't think they're ready for rugby or ice hockey." As they talked, messages kept arriving from curious classmates, asking about human physical capabilities and life on Earth. What had started as fear was slowly turning into fascination. Their classmates were beginning to understand that humans weren't dangerous because they wanted to be. They were simply built to survive a world that would kill most other species. "Maybe we should start a human-style exercise club," Jiho suggested, "for any species that wants to try it, with proper safety modifications, of course." Hannah smiled at the idea. It was a perfect way to show that human strength didn't have to be frightening. It could be shared and used to help others. As they planned their new club, the 3 moons of Centauri Prime cast their light through the window, reminding them that they were ambassadors not just for Earth, but for the idea that being strong didn't mean being threatening. The day's events had changed something in the academy. The humans were still seen as creatures from a Deathworld, but now there was understanding growing alongside the fear. Sometimes, the best way to show you weren't dangerous was to demonstrate exactly how dangerous you could be, and choose not to be. The xenobiology classroom buzzed with activity as Professor Nam, a tall being covered in protective scales adapted to desert life, prepared the day's lesson. The topic was planetary weather systems, and the professor had specifically asked Hannah to share her experiences of Earth's climate. The arrival of Sujai Lee, a transfer student from the Mars colonies, had added another perspective to the class. Unlike Hannah, who grew up on Earth, Sujai had only experienced Earth's weather during brief visits. Today, Professor Nam began, their scales shifting in the artificial light. "We will discuss extreme weather patterns. Hannah, could you explain what humans call rain?" Before Hannah could answer, Pell, a crystalline student, chimed in with a musical tone. "Is it true your planet randomly dumps dihydrogen monoxide from the atmosphere?" "Yes, we call it rain," Hannah explained. "It's part of Earth's water cycle. The water evaporates, forms clouds, and falls back as rain." The classroom erupted in concerned murmurs. Professor Nam raised their scaled appendages for silence. "And your species survives this regular acid bombardment." "It's not acid," Suji interjected. "I visited Earth during what they call a spring shower. The water is pure enough to drink." This statement caused several students to emit distress signals. Professor Nam's scales flattened in surprise. "You willingly consume atmospheric precipitation." Hannah activated the classroom's holographic display, showing images of Earth's rain. "Some of my favorite memories are of playing in the rain as a child. The sound of it falling on roofs is very peaceful. Peaceful. Pell's crystalline structure vibrated in disbelief. What about the atmospheric electrical discharges? Lightning? Yes, that happens during storms, Hannah confirmed. She displayed footage of a thunderstorm. The class watched in horror as lightning bolts split the sky. Your species developed shelter against such phenomena? Professor Nam asked, their scientific curiosity overcoming their shock. We have lightning rods to protect buildings, Suji explained. But sometimes humans actually chase storms to study them. The revelation that humans intentionally pursued dangerous weather patterns caused one student to temporarily lose consciousness. Professor Nam quickly adjusted their environmental controls to revive them. Let me show you something really interesting, Hannah said, displaying images of surfers riding massive waves. These are hurricanes and tropical storms. Some humans use them for recreation. The classroom fell silent. Even Professor Nam seemed at a loss for words. Finally, Pell spoke up. Your species seeks entertainment in Class 5 atmospheric disturbances. Only the well-trained ones, Suja clarified, as if that made it better. Most humans just stay inside during big storms. Hannah continued showing images, blizzards, tornadoes, monsoons. Each new weather phenomenon seemed to both horrify and fascinate her classmates. She explained how humans had adapted to each type of weather, developing everything from snowshoes to storm shelters. In my hometown, Hannah shared, we sometimes got all 4 seasons in 1 week. You'd have snow on Monday and be wearing shorts by Friday. Your environmental adaptation rate is remarkable. Professor Nam noted, their scientific interest fully engage. How does your species cope with such rapid changes? We just check the weather forecast and dress accordingly, Hannah said with a shrug. It's really not that complicated. The simplicity of this solution seemed to baffle the class even more than the weather itself. The idea that humans just adapted rather than trying to control their environment was a foreign concept. Suji then described her first experience with Earth rain after growing up in the controlled environment of Mars. I thought I was prepared, but standing in actual rain was overwhelming. Earth humans take it for granted, but it's really quite beautiful. As the class progressed, the students' fear began to turn to fascination. They asked questions about rainbows, snow angels, and the human practice of puddle jumping. The concept of children deliberately splashing in collected rainwater both confused and amused them. But how do you predict these weather patterns? Pell asked. Surely you need advanced technology. Hannah laughed. Well, we have weather satellites now, but humans could predict weather by watching clouds and animal behavior long before we had technology. Some people can feel rain coming in their joints. This biological connection to their environment's conditions sparked intense discussion. Professor Nam had to remind the class several times to stay on topic as questions ranged from human weather-sensing abilities to the recreational activity called mud baths. As the class ended, Professor Nam asked Hannah and Suji to prepare a presentation on seasonal weather patterns for the next session. The other students were particularly interested in learning about what humans called snow days and the apparently contradictory activities of sunbathing and skiing. Walking out of class, Hannah overheard Pell explaining to another student, they don't just survive their world's attempts to kill them. They find ways to enjoy it. Perhaps that's why they're so resilient. The comment made Hannah smile. She had never thought of Earth's weather as particularly dangerous before coming to the academy. Now she was beginning to see her home world through new eyes, as a place that had shaped humanity into something unique in the galaxy. That evening, as she watched the alien moons through her window, a light rain began to fall in the Academy's Earth simulation garden. Hannah saw several of her classmates gathered at a safe distance, watching in fascination as water fell from the sky, trying to understand the species that called such a phenomenon beautiful rather than terrifying. The Academy's environmental simulation chamber loomed before Hannah like a massive steel cocoon. Today marked the beginning of the mandatory survival training course, and the arrival of a special instructor had caused quite a stir. Du Yun, an experienced human survival expert, stood before the gathered students, his weathered face showing both amusement and patience. Today's simulation will test basic survival skills, Du Yun announced, while Vel, a floating collection of gaseous particles contained in a high-tech field, recorded everything for the Academy's research division. We'll start with what humans consider moderate conditions. Rix, a hive mind species represented by thousands of tiny insect-like creatures forming a roughly humanoid shape, raised their collective voice. Define moderate conditions, instructor. Rainforest environment. 30 degrees Celsius, high humidity, limited visibility, Du Yun replied. Several students immediately activated their environmental protection suits. Hana noticed the other humans in the class, Jaiho and Suje, trying to hide their smiles. What the Academy considered survival conditions, most humans would call a challenging camping trip. The chamber doors opened, revealing the stunningly realistic rainforest environment. Du Yun led them inside, explaining as they walked. First task, finding safe shelter using only local materials. Vel's gaseous form swirled with interest as they observed the humans casually walking through what other species considered lethal conditions. You require no protective equipment. This is basically like summer back home, Hannah explained, already gathering fallen branches for a shelter. The other students watched in amazement as the humans quickly constructed basic lintos. Rix, attempting to follow their example, sent their component parts to gather materials. Your species regularly constructs temporary dwellings from unprocessed organic matter. We call it camping, Jaho said. It's a popular hobby on Earth. This revelation caused such a stir that Du Yun had to call for attention. Next challenge, finding water sources. The humans demonstrated various techniques, from collecting morning dew to identifying safe water sources. When Hannah started digging to show how to find water underground, several students emitted distress signals. You willingly interact with unprocessed soil. Vel's particles scattered in shock before reforming. Earth children do this for fun in something called sandbox, Du Yun explained, causing another wave of disbelief among the non-human students. The most dramatic moment came during the fire-making demonstration. When Du Yun produced a small flame using friction, Rix's composite form temporarily lost cohesion from shock. You create plasma reactions, manually. Their tiny components buzzed with excitement and fear. Wait until they learn about marshmallows, Suji whispered to Hana, causing them both to stifle laughter. As the simulation progressed, the non-human students began to show genuine interest in human survival techniques. Vel particularly became fascinated by the way humans use their environment instead of fighting against it. Your species adapts to conditions rather than requiring conditions to adapt to you, they observed, their gaseous form shimmering thoughtfully. The final test involved navigating through the simulated darkness. While other species relied on advanced technology or natural bioluminescence, the humans demonstrated basic navigation using stars and natural landmarks. Remarkable, Rix commented, their collective voice humming. You trust your basic senses over technology. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most reliable, Du Yun explained, showing them how to find north using shadow positions. By the end of the session, the chamber had run through several different environments, from Arctic tundra to desert conditions. The non-human students watched in growing amazement as their human classmates treated each deadly scenario as a mild inconvenience. But when do you activate your emergency beacons? Vel asked, genuinely confused. Those are for actual emergencies, Hana explained. This is just basic outdoor skills. Most human children learn these at summer camps. The concept of deliberately sending young humans into wild environments as a learning experience caused such consternation that Du Yun had to spend several minutes explaining the educational and recreational value of camping. Later, as they exited the chamber, Rix approached Hannah with their composite form, arranged in what she had learned was a gesture of respect. We understand now why Earth is classified as a death world, not because it is uniquely dangerous, but because it produced species capable of treating danger as normal. I never thought about it that way, Hannah admitted. For us, it's just home. Du Yun gathered them for a final lesson. The point of survival training isn't just staying alive. It's understanding how different species adapt to challenges. Humans didn't conquer our environment. We learned to live with it. As the class dispersed, Vel lingered, their gaseous forms swirling contemplatively. Perhaps, they suggested, we should not pity species from Deathworlds, but learn from their resilience. Hannah watched her classmates leave, each processing what they'd learned about human adaptability. The survival course had done more than teach technical skills. It had shown them that what one species considered deadly, another might call home. That evening, as Hannah recorded her thoughts for the Academy's research division, she realized something important. Humans weren't exceptional because they could survive extreme conditions, but because they had learned to thrive in them. Maybe that was the real lesson of the survival course, not how to stay alive, but how to truly live in whatever environment you found yourself in. The biology laboratory fell silent as Jun-Ho Park, Hannah's brother, and a visiting Earth scientist, placed a human skull replica on the display table. Professor Kerr, a tall, graceful being with features reminiscent of an Earth deer, took an instinctive step backward at the sight of the obvious predator markers. Today, Professor Kerr announced, their voice slightly trembling, we have a unique opportunity to study human evolutionary biology with an expert. Their large eyes kept darting to the forward-facing eye sockets of the skull. Mex, the synthetic research assistant, moved forward to scan the specimen, their metallic form humming with data collection. Fascinating. The dental structure indicates an omnivorous diet with clear predatory capabilities. Hannah watched her brother smile as he began his presentation. What you're seeing is the result of millions of years of evolution on a planet that demanded both intelligence and physical prowess to survive. The classroom of various species listened intently as Jun-Ho explained human evolutionary history. When he mentioned persistence hunting, several herbivorous students huddled together for comfort. You mean humans would chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion? Professor Kerr asked, their tail twitching nervously. Yes, Jun-Ho confirmed. Our endurance, sweating mechanism, and tracking abilities made us excellent pursuit predators. We didn't need to be the strongest or fastest. We just needed to be relentless. Mex's sensors whirred with interest. This explains the unusual combination of physical attributes we've observed in human students. The ability to maintain activity for extended periods while processing complex environmental data. Hannah noticed some of her classmates looking at her with new understanding. She had never thought of her morning jog as an expression of predatory behavior before. But the most interesting adaptation, Jun-Ho continued, is our problem-solving capability. Humans didn't just track prey. We developed tools, strategies, and social cooperation. He displayed images of early human tools, explaining how technology and intelligence had developed alongside physical capabilities. The class was particularly interested in how humans had used fire, with Professor Kerr needing several moments to process the idea of deliberately controlling plasma reactions for cooking. Your species intentionally altered food through controlled burning, Mex asked, their synthetic voice containing genuine curiosity. It's called cooking, Hannah explained. It made food safer and easier to digest, allowing our brains to develop further. Jun-Ho then moved on to discuss human social structures. We evolved as pack hunters, but with complex social bonds. Our ability to form communities and share knowledge gave us an evolutionary advantage. Like a hive mind, one student asked. No, more like individual minds choosing to work together, Jun-Ho clarified. Each human maintains their independence while contributing to the group. Professor Kerr, who had gradually become more fascinated than frightened, raised a question. But how did predatory instincts lead to scientific advancement? The same traits that made us good hunters, pattern recognition, problem solving, tool use, social cooperation, made us good at understanding our world, Jun-Ho explained. Curiosity and innovation became our new hunting grounds. Mex's analysis protocols were working overtime. This explains why humans approach challenges differently than most species. You're still using predator instincts in academic pursuits. Hannah hadn't considered it before, but she realized how true this was. The way humans tackled problems, breaking them down and pursuing solutions relentlessly, did mirror hunting behavior. Junho shared videos of human children playing, showing how many games mimicked hunting and survival skills. The class was amazed to learn that activities like hide and seek and tag were universal among human cultures. Even your recreation simulates predatory behavior, Professor Kier observed, their scientific curiosity finally overcoming their instinctive fear. But we've channeled these instincts, Hannah added. The same drive that once helped us hunt now helps us explore space and solve scientific problems. As Junho concluded his presentation, Mex presented their analysis. Humans are not simply predators who developed intelligence. You are intelligent beings who retained predator advantages. This combination makes you unique among known species. The class discussed this insight, with various species offering their perspectives. One student noted how humans' predatory past might explain their protective behavior toward weaker species, the hunter becoming the guardian. After class, as Hannah walked with her brother through the academy's corridors, she saw her fellow students in a new light. Some still maintained a safe distance, but there was more curiosity than fear in their reactions now. "You've done well here," Junho told her, showing them that predator traits can be used for protection and progress, not just hunting. Hannah nodded, understanding better now why the academy had been so cautious about accepting human students. They weren't just accepting individuals from a death world. They were accepting beings whose very nature had been shaped by millions of years of predatory evolution. But as she watched Mex compile their research notes and Professor Kier enthusiastically planning future lessons on human biology, she realized something important. Her species' predator heritage wasn't something to hide or be ashamed of. It was part of what made humans unique contributors to galactic society. That evening, as Hannah helped Mex catalog the day's findings, she reflected on how their predator past had led them to the stars. The same instincts that had once helped humans track prey across savanna now helped them track scientific discoveries across the cosmos. They hadn't lost their nature, they had evolved it into something new and remarkable. The warning sirens blared through the Galactic Academy's corridors, their pitch varying to be audible to all species. Hannah Park was in the middle of xenobiology class when the emergency alert flashed across every screen. An unexpected solar radiation storm was approaching the station, far more powerful than anything their standard shields were rated to handle. All students report to designated safety zones, the announcement echoed in multiple languages. But Hannah's attention was drawn to the environmental control readings flashing red on the nearest display. Emergency response expert Ha-Won Kim's voice came over the comm system. "We need volunteers with high radiation tolerance. Engineering and environmental control experience preferred." Hannah immediately activated her comm. "This is Hannah Park. Earth normal radiation tolerance. Basic engineering training. Report to Control Center immediately." Ta-One responded. "We're assembling an emergency team." When Hannah arrived, she found Lore, a multi-limbed engineering specialist, already working on shield calculations. Bix, an atmospheric species who existed as a controlled gas cloud, swirled anxiously around the environmental controls. "The radiation will breach our secondary shields in 40 minutes, Ta-One explained, his expression grim. "Standard containment protocols won't be enough. We need solutions fast." "The main issue isn't the shields," Lore clicked, their limbs moving across multiple control panels. "It's the environmental systems. If they fail, we lose containment for 17 different atmosphere types." Hannah studied the readouts. "Some species here can't survive even minutes in other atmospheres. We need backup containment. Impossible to reinforce all sectors in time." Bix's gaseous form pulsed with anxiety. Not enough materials or time. That's when Hannah remembered something from Earth history. What about water shielding? On Earth, we use water to block radiation in nuclear reactors. Taiwan's eyes lit up. The Academy's hydroponics bays. We could repurpose the water circulation system. But moving that much liquid without proper containment, Lore began. We don't move it, Hannah interrupted. We reroute it through the outer hull's maintenance channels. They already exist. Bix swirled excitedly. I can adjust atmospheric pressure to help control the flow. But we need someone to manually override the junction controls. That means going into high radiation zones, Taiwan warned, even with protection. I'll do it, Hannah volunteered. Earth humans have higher radiation tolerance than most species here. The next 30 minutes were a blur of activity. While Lore rewrote the control systems and Bix balanced the atmospheric pressures, Hannah and Taiwan raced through the maintenance corridors, manually overriding safety protocols to redirect the water flow. 10 minutes to shield breach, the system announced as Hannah reached the final junction. The radiation levels were already high enough to make the dosimeter on her suit chirp warnings. Hannah, the readings in your section are critical. Lore's voice crackled through the comm. You need to evacuate. Almost done, Hannah grunted, her hand steady as she rewired the final control panel. Just need to confirm the flow. The pipes around her groaned as thousands of liters of water began flowing through the outer hull. Hannah could feel the heat of the approaching radiation storm through her suit as she made her way back to the safe zone. Water shield is functioning, Bix announced. Radiation levels dropping in all sectors. But they weren't done yet. The diverted water meant some environmental systems were running on emergency power. For the next 2 hours, the team worked continuously to maintain life support for all species while the radiation storm raged outside. Hannah's Earth-evolved endurance proved crucial as she ran from sector to sector, making manual adjustments that the automated systems couldn't handle. Her body's natural ability to handle stress and continue functioning under pressure, traits evolved on her Deathworld home, made her perfectly suited for the crisis. Finally, the storm began to pass. As the emergency team gathered in the control center to assess the damage, Lore approached Hannah. Your suggestion saved many lives, they clicked softly. We would not have considered using primitive radiation shielding techniques. Sometimes the old solutions are the best ones, Hannah replied, trying to ignore her pounding headache from radiation exposure. Humans learned it the hard way. Taiwan insisted on sending her to the medical bay for treatment, despite her protests that she'd had worse sunburns back on Earth. The medical staff were amazed at how well her body was already working to repair the radiation damage. Your cellular repair mechanisms are remarkable, the chief medical officer noted. Is this common for your species? We evolved under constant UV radiation, Hannah explained. Our bodies had to adapt. The Academy director later commended the emergency team, specifically noting how the combination of human intuition and endurance with other species' specialized abilities had prevented a disaster. What could have been a catastrophe had instead become a powerful example of interspecies cooperation. As Hannah finally returned to her quarters that night, she found messages from many of her classmates. The same traits that had once made them fear humans, their predatory instincts, their ability to endure harsh conditions, their aggressive problem-solving, had helped save the Academy. Perhaps, she thought as she drifted off to sleep, being from a death world isn't about being dangerous. It's about being ready for anything the universe throws at you. The radiation burns would heal, but the lessons learned about combining human resilience with alien expertise would last much longer. Outside her window, the stars shone clearly again. The radiation storm now just another story to tell about how different species could work together, each contributing their unique evolutionary advantages to overcome any challenge the cosmos presented. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Academy sparkled under the light of 3 moons streaming through its crystal dome. The annual Unity Conference had drawn representatives from across the galaxy, but this year was special. For the first time, Earth was being recognized as a full member of the Galactic Academic Alliance. Hannah Park stood among her fellow students, watching as Minji Song, Earth's diplomatic representative, approached the podium. Academy Director Nix, a shimmering field of interconnected consciousness nodes, floated beside her. When we first admitted human students, Nix's collective voice resonated through the hall. Many feared we were making a grave mistake. Deathworlders, they said, would bring chaos to our institution. Hana felt the gentle touch of Duri's wing on her shoulder. The avian student, once terrified of humans, now counted her among their closest friends. Nearby, Professor Kier nodded encouragingly, their herbivore instincts long since balanced with understanding. Instead, Minji responded, her voice clear and strong. We have learned from each other. Humans have shown that being from a death world doesn't make one dangerous. It makes one adaptable. The crowd murmured in agreement. Many remembered the radiation storm incident, where human resilience had helped save the Academy. Taiwan Kim, standing with the emergency response team, smiled at the memory. Jun Ho Park, now a regular visiting lecturer, stepped forward to share his observations. Our differences aren't barriers, they're advantages. Each species brings unique perspectives shaped by their homeworld. Lore, the engineering specialist, clicked their appendages in agreement. Human problem-solving methods seemed chaotic at first, but now we understand they're simply different approaches to the same goals. Du Yun, the survival instructor, had set up a display showing various training exercises. What we once saw as primitive survival skills, we now recognize as valuable knowledge for any species exploring unknown worlds. The synthetic research assistant, MEX, projected data showing how academic performance had improved across all species since the integration of human students. Cross-species cooperation has led to unprecedented advances in multiple fields. Hana watched as Suji and Jiho demonstrated some basic Earth exercises, now part of a popular multi-species fitness program. Even Pell, the crystalline student, had found ways to adapt human movement patterns to their unique form. But perhaps most importantly, Minji continued, we've learned that strength can be gentle, predators can be protectors, and what seems dangerous can become valuable. Bix swirled their atmospheric form in a pattern of agreement, the same human traits that once caused concern. Endurance, adaptability, aggressive problem-solving have proven invaluable in crisis situations. Rix, the hive mind species, formed into a pattern representing unity. We have learned that human persistence, when applied to understanding rather than hunting, builds bridges between worlds. Professor Nam, still cautious of Earth's weather patterns, nevertheless spoke of how human students had revolutionized their understanding of adaptive biology. They show us that life finds a way, even in conditions we thought impossible. As the ceremony continued, Hannah reflected on her first day at the Academy. How far they'd all come from those initial fears and misunderstandings. Now, human students were sought after as study partners, valued for their unique perspectives and problem-solving abilities. Director Nix's consciousness field expanded to encompass the gathering. Today, we don't just celebrate Earth joining our alliance. We celebrate the understanding that diversity, even dangerous diversity, makes us stronger. Vel, floating nearby, added their perspective. Humans taught us that being dangerous and being destructive are not the same thing. Power can protect as easily as it can harm. The ceremony concluded with a demonstration of various Earth cultural practices that had been adapted for multiple species. The sight of a silicon-based being attempting to dance brought laughter from all present. Later, at the reception, Hannah found herself surrounded by friends of all species. Duri was explaining Earth bird watching to a group of fascinated students, while Jiho taught others the basics of human meditation techniques. Did you ever think we'd see this day? Suji asked, watching an enthusiastic group trying to learn Earth games. Not when I first arrived, Hannah admitted, but humans are adaptable. And so, it turns out, is everyone else. Minji joined them, her diplomatic duties finished for the moment. You students did the hard part. You showed everyone that being different doesn't mean being dangerous. Director Nix's final announcement echoed through the hall. From this day forward, we remove the term Deathworlder from our official classifications. All worlds shape their children differently, but all have something to teach us. As the 3 moons rose higher in the alien sky, the celebration continued. Humans and aliens alike shared stories, knowledge, and friendship. The fear of the Deathworlders had transformed into respect for their resilience, appreciation for their adaptability, and gratitude for their protection. Hannah looked around at her assembled friends, avian, aquatic, crystalline, gaseous, and more, and smiled. They had all come so far from those first fearful days. Earth's strength had become not a source of terror, but a foundation for building understanding across the stars. In the end, it wasn't about being from a death world or a paradise. It was about what each species chose to do with the traits their homeworld had given them. And humans had chosen to use their strength to protect, their endurance to understand, and their adaptability to build bridges across the galaxy.